Okay, let's learn how to build an Eleventy plugin. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to start with my empty boilerplate project, emp.ty. You can find that on my GitHub, made by Mike/empty, or of course you can use your own boilerplate, or maybe you've got an existing project that you want to add a plugin to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install this package called Pluralize. I'm going to make something that allows you to take a word, add a filter which will singularize it or pluralize it. So let's install that now. And then I should be able to require that like this, not like that. I'm going to change this to const because I'm going to use all my other variables that way just for consistency. And then what I want to do is create a function. And when I'm building plugins, I usually start inside the Eleventy.js sort of config file. Obviously later on I'll split this out into its own package potentially if I want to share it, or at least into a folder where I collect these things. And I'll probably start with a function. So let's just call this plural plugin. Don't know why I capitalized that. And that's just going to be a function. So Eleventy plugins are really kind of like this function that you create to configure Eleventy in the first place. They accept the Eleventy config, and then you can do things like that, like add filters, for example, which is what we're going to do. And you might be thinking, well, hang on, Mike, I can just add my filter down here. What's the purpose of creating a plugin? And that probably makes sense in this example, but you can also pass options to plugins, and that's where they become really useful for people to be able to configure, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment as well. But let's start by creating the filter. So I want to add a plural filter, and that's going to be a function that takes a word, and then it's going to transform that word and return the plural. So pluralize and then plural, and then it will be the word. Just like that. And let's create one for singular as well. So that's reason one that you might want to create a plugin, is just to sort of package these up. I guess single, plural, single. Yep. And we'll want that to be singular. Just double check that that's right. Yep. Okay, so we've got that configured into a plugin now. Now we need to sort of add this to Eleventy. So imagine this could be added to a different file somewhere, and then we can import it. And then you'd import that plugin, and you'd take that and you'd say Eleventy config.add plugin, and then the name of your plugin, and then the options you want to pass it. So in this case, I noticed that, just to give you an example of how options work, I noticed that they have this irregular rule here, and that's kind of like a imperative API where you have to have access to this pluralize package. Now, if that was in another file somewhere, or if you wanted to upload this to NPM or something like that, obviously people aren't going to have access to that. So if you have options that you want people to be able to configure, or you want just a easier API for yourself on your own projects, you can actually just put the options in here. So let's create a more declarative API for irregulars. So we might say irregular, and that's an option. And then that probably needs to have an array which contains like a word, which is a string, and then like the plural of that word. So I'm just going to say word2 so that we can test that. And then what we can do up in our plugin here is we can loop over those options. So I can say options, and then irregulars. That should probably be a plural in a fit of irony. And then we probably want to loop over that. So we'll say for each. And then this will be like an array containing two words. I'll call it word pair. And then for the word pair, we want to add the irregular rule thing, and it will be word pair 0. Remember how arrays work, Mike? Word pair 1. And then you've got configurable options that allow your plugins to sort of have different results depending on how people have configured them. That should not be there. There we go. That looks pretty good to me. So now we should test this. So here we have an empty page. Now if we put in a bunch of words, so let's start with word, and we should get word 2 there. If that irregular rule worked. And that would be a plural rule. So we want to plural that. Let's try fish. And we'll plural that, and we'll say cakes, and let's singular. I think we said single. All right, so let's run that. Oh, we haven't installed anything. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back after installing. And let's see if that worked. So we have word became word 2. Fish is still fish, and cakes is singular. So why didn't our plural work? Could it simply be that it doesn't know the plural for fish? Well, it knows the plural for monkeys. I thought fish was fishes. Anyway, we've all learned something, and that's how you make an 11e plugin.